This customer requested a chicken cake. I first started by sculpting it in the shape that I needed, and I decided to cover this in ganache so that way it doesn't shift as much and it just holds together a lot better. I decided it'd be best to add this piece of fondant to the cake board at this part. Since there's going to be a lot of little details, I really didn't want to cut around those. I used a fondant mold that's a wood imprint to make this print on the fondant, which helps it look like the wooden planks. I also went back with a fondant tool and a ruler just to deepen those lines so you can see them a lot better. I wanted the imprint of the wood to stand out just a little bit more, so I went back and added a few more details. To make the legs, I'm just using some scrap pieces from the cake and just icing over them with some buttercream. And at this point, I did have to be extra careful since there was fondant on the cake board already. Now, this is a step that I always like to do, and I definitely recommend when you're adding a lot of little fondant details to the cake. I coordinate the color of the buttercream to the pieces of the fondant. That way, if there's any gaps in between pieces, you can't see them very much and it hides it very well. Now, I did say this was a chicken, so we are laying every feather down piece by piece. I started off with the legs and then moved on to the body. And if you are wondering, I did make these pieces out of a fondant mold. Here's a close-up of what some of those look like. I also dusted them with a edible blue shimmer, just to give it a two-toned effect. I also skipped the part where the wings are going to go, since I wanted those to go into a different direction. So instead of laying the feathers up and down, they are going sideways, to give it a little contrast so that way you can see the wing. Now it was time to add these little chicken feet. I made them out of fondant and let them set overnight so that way they can harden and stay in place. And I made sure to hide them inside the feathers so that way it just flows a lot better. For the bottom part of the body, the last thing was just to add the little tail feathers. I was completely done with this chicken when I did not like the way it looked. So here is me just completely taking the entire neck and head off, shaving it down to reshape it, re-icing it, and starting all over. If you guys want to see what the first chicken looked like, I will be making another video over it. So unfortunately, this chicken did have to have a little bit of a cosmetic surgery. For the neck, I just cut out a whole bunch of skinny triangles in orange and yellow and just stacked them together. I then added that red piece on top of the head. I'm not sure what it's called. Then came these crazy bug eyes, and they are also just made out of fondant. Lastly, it was just adding the nose with that red piece that hangs around it. And this customer did request for there to be a red number 1 on the cake board. The neck looked too flat, so I flared out a few of the pieces to give it some movement. And finally, here was the final result. Let me know if you want to see the sculpting process over this chicken and if you want to see the uglier version of it.